Okay, real quick before we get started on the video here, I want to let you guys know about Wayne May's new magazine all about Book of Mormon archaeology. Now, if you're into Book of Mormon geography and archaeology and you haven't heard of Wayne May, then you really got to check out his stuff, because Wayne is one of the guys who I've learned the most from when it comes to Book of Mormon geography and Book of Mormon archaeology. Anyway, his new magazine will be called Land of Promise, and the first issue will be available March 1st of 2023, just next year, so it's just a few months away. And Wayne really knows what he's doing. For those of you who don't know, Wayne has been publishing another magazine called Ancient American Magazine ever since the early 90s. It's an awesome magazine too. And Ancient American Magazine will continue, but his new magazine, Land of Promise, is going to specifically be devoted to the Book of Mormon and archaeology that supports the Book of Mormon. And the magazine will be issued quarterly, so you've got March, June, September, and December. Again, with March 1st of 2023 being the very first issue. So if you want to subscribe to the magazine, you can get a year's subscription for $49.95, and you can contact Wayne either by email, phone, or mailing address that you see on the screen here. And also go check out his website called ldsarchaeology.com. So if you've been watching my Book of Mormon videos and you think that the stuff in there is really cool, and you haven't heard of Wayne May, check out his stuff, because, like I say, a lot of what I've learned from Wayne. And in my videos, I just scratch the surface of Book of Mormon evidence. Wayne goes way in depth. He's got so many books, so many DVDs, the Ancient American Magazine, and now this new magazine, Land of Promise. So again, check out his stuff, and you will learn so much about the evidence that supports the Book of Mormon. Part 11, Native American words relating to words in the Book of Mormon. Now, throughout this series, I've mentioned some Native American words that relate to words found in the Book of Mormon, the Bible, and the Middle East in general. I'm going to recap some of them here, as well as introduce some other ones. So first, I want to remind you of a word among various Algonquin tribes, which the Ojibwa tribe says has been passed down through the generations from their ancient ancestors. It's the name for the Creator, read from right to left, and they pronounce it Yod-He-Va, with a missing fourth syllable that is only written and spoken once a year in their sacred lodges. This name is similar to how God's name is sometimes spoken in Hebrew, Yod-He-Vav-He. And if that isn't interesting enough, this writing is actually an ancient writing system called cuneiform, which originated in the Middle East. The date of its origin is debated, but those of us who believe in the Bible know that God caused mankind to speak different languages during the time of the Tower of Babel, which is estimated to be around 2200 BC, though some believe that cuneiform is older than that. So the Ojibwa tribe's pronunciation and cuneiform spelling for the name of Creator came from the Middle East to North America. That's an irrefutable fact. But how did it get here? Well, first, I can tell you how it didn't get here. It didn't come over with the European colonists just a few hundred years ago, because the Ojibwa tribe says it's been handed down to them from their ancient ancestors. Now, mainstream U.S. academia insists that all Native American ancestry came from East Asia on an ice or land bridge between Russia and Alaska. Some may have crossed that way, but if you listen to a variety of Native Americans, you'll find that some of their ancestors were actually here when the continents split apart, and others came later from across both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans in boats. The Ojibwa tribe will teach you that they have ancestors who came across the Atlantic Ocean in what they call turtle boats. They came down the St. Lawrence Seaway in Canada and spread throughout the entire Great Lakes area. This history is found in what they call Red Sky's migration chart. You can look it up online, find it in books, but be careful though, because some sources don't publish the full chart. purposely cutting out the part that shows the turtle boats coming from across the Atlantic Ocean. And last I heard, you can also go see the actual scroll of red sky's migration chart at the University of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. Now, getting back to how the cuneiform writing got from the Middle East to North America. Regardless of whether you believe in the Book of Mormon or not, in Ether chapters 1 through 6, it tells about a man named Jared and his brother, whose name was later revealed to be Moriancumer. Anyway, these two men lived around 2200 BC during the time of the Tower of Babel, when God was causing people's languages to change. And from reading these chapters, we learn that God didn't cause the languages to change in a single instant, but rather it took place over a period of time. I don't know, maybe it was some kind of illness that affected how the people spoke. But while this was happening, Jared asked Moriancumer to pray that God would spare them, their families, and their friends from having their language changed, and also that God would lead them away to another land. So God blessed them to keep their language, and he led them from the Middle East to North America in 8 boats which they described were tight like unto a dish and tight like unto the Ark of Noah. They could get buried under the waves of the ocean and not be destroyed or leak. So here we have a group of people from the Middle East during the time of the Tower of Babel, when the cuneiform writing system was being used. They come across the ocean to North America in boats that are tight like unto a dish, which can survive above or beneath the waves of the ocean, and could also very easily be described as turtle boats, just like the Ojibwa tribe says. And I've heard that the number of turtle boats that the Ojibwa tribe's ancestors came over in was 8, though I only see 4 boats on Red Sky's migration chart. And then we have the name of God in cuneiform being the same name for creator to the Ojibwa, written the same way and pronounced the same way, Yod-He-Vah. This stuff is not fake. This stuff is not just coincidence. It's real. The Creator's name is carved in thousands of rocks and artifacts all throughout the Great Lakes area, yet mainstream U.S. academia insists that all of them are hoaxes. But if you listen to Native Americans, whose ancestors were here in North America long before any Europeans arrived, and who certainly know their own history much better than U.S. academia claims to, if you listen to Native Americans, then you're well on your way to learning the truth. Here's some other Native American names for Creator in comparison to Hebrew names for God. Okay, on to the next word, Niagara. Most of you probably recognize this word from the famous Niagara Falls between western New York and Ontario, Canada. The word Niagara is from the Mohawk tribe, and it means small neck, narrow neck, or simply the neck. And when you look at where the Niagara Falls are, they're on the Niagara River, which flows north for about 35 miles on a narrow neck of land between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, which is why the river and falls have the name Niagara. People who are familiar with the Book of Mormon know about a land feature in the Book of Mormon called the narrow neck of land, which leads from the land south to the land north. Now, I'm not saying that the Niagara Pass is the narrow neck of land spoken of in the Book of Mormon. The location of the narrow neck of land needs its own video, but for now, I'm just showing the importance of the meaning of the word Niagara. The next word is one that I've talked about in previous parts of this series as well, and that word is Namesi-Sipu. Namesi-Sipu is what the Delaware tribe call the Mississippi River. The name Mississippi is a name that the French gave to the river, but the Delaware name Namesi-Sipu means fish river or river of fish. Now, the major river mentioned in the Book of Mormon is called the River Sidon. And the word Sidon is related to the word fish in Hebrew, Egyptian, Phoenician, and Greek. Both Lehi's group and Mulek's group would have known this word when they left Jerusalem and sailed over to North America after 600 BC. So the translation of the river Sidon means river of fish, the same translation as Namesi Sipu. And if the modern city of Zarahemla, which Jesus Christ personally names in Doctrine and Covenants section 125, if that modern city of Zarahemla sits on the same land where the ancient city of Zarahemla from the Book of Mormon did, then Zarahemla, Iowa is on the west bank of the Mississippi River, or the Namesi Sipu, just like ancient Zarahemla was on the west bank of the river Sidon. And some people say that the river Sidon has to flow north because the land of Zarahemla is north of the land of Nephi and lower in elevation. Now that's a reasonable assumption because the Book of Mormon does say that the land of Zarahemla is further north than the land of Nephi and is also lower in elevation, and that the river Sidon has east and west banks. But it never says the direction of the flow of the river Sidon. And here's the thing. The Mississippi River flows south, and if you go south along the river from Zarahemla, Iowa, to the Gulf of Mexico, you're obviously going down in elevation, not up. But if you go southeast or southwest from Zarahemla, Iowa, you do go up in elevation. And the Book of Mormon never says that Nephi is near the river Sidon. So it's easily possible to go southeast or southwest of ancient Zarahemla and go up in elevation to the land of Nephi, yet still have the river Sidon flow south, just like the Mississippi River flows south. And when you look at the oldest Hopewell mound-builder sites in North America, where are they? They're in Iowa, Tennessee, and the oldest sites are in the Florida-Georgia area, which is also where the Iroquois tribes say that they have ancestors who arrived there in a boat. So if Lehi landed in Florida and Nephi's group went north to Tennessee, leaving Laman's group in Florida, then notice how Tennessee is southeast of Zarahemla, Iowa, and higher in elevation, yet the Mississippi River still flows south. So this could easily work for when the Nephites left the land of Nephi, going further north and down in elevation to the land of Zarahemla, where they discovered the Mulekites, who had already been living there for hundreds of years. This next word is the name of a man from the Delaware tribe, found on a tribal census record from 1842. His name is Nepahite. And what are the two main groups of people in the Book of Mormon called? Lamanite and Nephite. And remember, the Delaware tribe were some of the very first Lamanites to hear about the Book of Mormon after the Lord called missionaries to preach to the Lamanites in 1830, as mentioned in Doctrine and Covenants section 28, 30, 32, and the autobiography of Parley P. Pratt. Now, the Nephites had been destroyed by the Lamanites over 1400 years earlier because of their great wickedness. But there were Nephite survivors who decided to join the Lamanites rather than be killed. And here's this name, Nepahite, that has survived through the generations and was the name of a Delaware man in 1842. Another name that has survived through the generations is Manti Noah. Manti Noah was a man from the Cayuga tribe. The earliest mention that I've been able to find of him in books is from 1849. But a Cayuga woman whom I've met before, named Dolores Kakonen, says that Manti Noah is one of her ancestors, and that he died around 1790. Manti is the name of a Nephite land, city, hill, and man in the Book of Mormon. And Noah is also the name of a Nephite land and city, as well as the name of a wicked Nephite king, a wicked Jaredite king, and the name of the great prophet Noah in the Bible, who's also mentioned in the Book of Mormon, because they knew about him and the great flood that covered the entire planet Earth when he was alive. So there you go. Those are just a few Native American words that I wanted to share with you that trace back to the Book of Mormon. And this is also the end of my 11-part series on supportive evidence for the Book of Mormon. But don't worry, if you want to see more videos on this subject, I have more on my YouTube channel right now, and I still plan on making plenty more videos in the future. But also, go check out the stuff from some of the people who have helped me learn about Book of Mormon evidence over the years. They have so many awesome videos, books, websites, which go into way more detail than I do. Because like I said in part 1, the things that I've shared in this series are just scratching the surface of what I've learned over the years. And there's so much more information out there to learn. I'm constantly learning more and more things. And the majority of evidence that supports the Book of Mormon comes from non-LDS sources, which these people share in their research. Anyway, the goal with my videos in this series was to keep them as short as I could, but still give you enough interesting information to go and research this kind of stuff on your own if you want to. Because I can watch or read up on Book of Mormon evidence for hours and hours and not get bored. But I do realize that not everybody is like that, so I try to keep my videos short. But if you are like that and you want to dive deep into this subject, like I said, check out the stuff from these other people. Before 2013, I'd heard about the mound builders before, but all I knew about them was that they made some burial mounds, and that's it. But when I found some videos from Wayne May and Rod Meldrum on YouTube about the Hopewell and Adena mound builders, I watched them for I don't know how many hours. And then I called up Wayne and got lots of books from him, and I found out about the Book of Mormon evidence conferences that Rod does twice a year. And from there, I've met and learned from so many more people. And as I said before, the majority of evidence that supports the Book of Mormon comes from non-LDS sources. It's really cool. So whenever anybody says there's no evidence of the Book of Mormon, they just haven't done good enough research, because just like the Bible, there's plenty of evidence for the Book of Mormon. Of course, that's not what you should base your testimony off of, because there are lots of things in both the Bible and the Book of Mormon that haven't been proved yet. And that's where faith comes in, because God requires us to have faith in Him and His words. But for anyone who's willing to read the Bible and the Book of Mormon with an unbiased mind and ask God if they're true, He'll answer you however He wants, whenever He wants. And the Holy Ghost will prove it to you personally. That's what a testimony should be based on, because God doesn't lie. Anyways, you can probably tell this subject is just really fun for me, and that's why I like to learn about it. It helps me learn more about the ancient people from the Book of Mormon, but as I've said before, the most important thing that these people left behind is the Book of Mormon itself. It teaches that Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost are real, that they spoke not only to people in the ancient Middle East, but that they also spoke to people in ancient America and all around the rest of the world, and that they love every person in every culture around the world. But its main message is the same as God's other book, the Bible, which is that Jesus Christ suffered the punishments for the sins of every person in this world, and that if we choose to follow Him, we'll be forgiven, we'll be healed, and we'll have more happiness in this life and eternal happiness in the next life.